Well, folks, it finally happened. Russell Westbrook looks like he's going to be a member of the Denver Nuggets. Adrian Wojnarowski just tweeted out that the Utah Jazz are acquiring Russ. They're going to waive him. He's going to sign with the Nuggets for the minimum. Assumably, he'll fill a six-man spot, Swipa, but I don't know. Who knows what's actually going to happen with this Nuggets starting lineup and this Nuggets rotation? What are your initial thoughts on Russell Westbrook joining the Denver Nuggets?
Summon my inner LeBron James from 2012 NBA Finals MVP, post-game conference. It's about damn time. Russell Westbrook has been just as clear to Denver as Deron Holmes was to Denver. That's about how loud the noise had been. And Russ, I think, will be the best backup point guard the Denver Nuggets have had since Bruce Brown. He is a good scorer. He's a good play finisher. He's a very good passer. Very good guard rebounder. And you know what? He's also a slight positive defensively. Off ball is going to become concerned, but on ball, Ryan, he's going to fight. And I think that's more than what we could say about Reggie, just some of that's physical limitations. But I think the thing is Russ is going to make this team more dynamic. They're going to have a higher floor now on the bench than I think people are really giving them credit for. So, Ryan, if I told you Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, Dario Saric, and Vlatko Cancar, what does that say to you, that bench unit?
That bench unit by itself is not going to be very good to me. That's the thing that I think people are going to have to remember. There's going to need to be some staggering of starters. The Nuggets are going to have to get creative with some of these lineups. But the two names that you mentioned, I think that are most important are Russell Westbrook and Dario Saric. Those are the two kind of bookends of what they're going to be doing with their bench. And in between that, who knows what they're actually going to look like. But I do think that the rim pressure from Russell Westbrook, the intensity, the ability to kind of get downhill, draw attention. And then with Saric, one of his best skills is actually a pretty good three-point shooter. He can space the floor a little bit at the 5. And I wonder if that helps open up the floor a little bit for Russ. Like, there are going to be some other spacing concerns with this team, but the 1-5 pick and roll, pick and pop, I think actually could be an asset for Denver.
Yeah, and just really right here is where you really feel the loss of Deron Holmes, because Deron would have been perfect next to Russ as a rim runner, as a vertical spacer, but also the three-point shooter to give you both. Russ hasn't had that a lot in his career. And Russ is going to be able to get in that pick and roll and get downhill in transition. And I think taking advantage of Julian Strawther, taking advantage of Peyton Watson's athleticism in the open court, his ability to finish above the rim, finding Dario Saric on the, weak side corner, or being able to pass back out of a pick and roll on a pop out. Like, Russ is going to add a lot to this team. And I actually think, Ryan, this bench is going to be better than what is last year, because I think the bench is just more talented.
Yeah.
Again, last year off the bench directly, it was Reggie Jackson, Christian Brown, it was Justin Holiday, Peyton Watson, and like DeAndre Jordan basically was the bench. And then some of Zeke Naji when he was healthy. But this year, Russell, I think, is better than Reggie. Julian Strawther, I think it's going to be a really good fit this year, especially to getting up the volume at three-point attempts. Peyton Watson in year 3, that's a big difference. And actually playing the wing instead of playing the 4. And look, I think Vlatko Cancar, if he can give you what he gave you 2 years ago with size, athleticism, and shooting, and then you pair that next to Dario Saric, that bench is just better. Like, it's just a better, well-balanced bench. And now you have 2 negative floor spacers in Peyton and Russ. And we'll see what happens with Peyton, but Russ for sure. But then now you have 3 positive floor spacers in Vlatko, Saric, and Julian Strawther. Your ability to kind of mismatch with your scheme and what you want to do, what you want to deploy. If you want to run Russell Westbrook out there with Nikola Jokic, well, guess what? Russell Westbrook, then having Julian Strawther out there, Michael Porter Jr., and then Vlatko Cancar with Nikola Jokic, you got plenty of spacing. And now Westbrook can go to work, because he's going to have a bunch of shooters around him and a lot of length and some athleticism around him as well, with Vlatko hopefully having his bounce back. So Russ, I think, is going to be a little bit of a revelation for the Nuggets. I do think there are some games where he's going to be able to close, just depending on how the matchup is going. But defensively, too, I think he's going to add some to the table, because now you tell me, Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, I actually feel really comfortable with that 1 through 3 off the bench defensively. Now it's about, can we make enough buckets on our end to make up for some of the losses that we might have in some other ways. So, look, man, I think the team, and again, Ryan, you can tell me if I'm tripping, I actually think this team is more well-balanced than what's last year. Now, they could have had that anyway, if they got Russ on the minimum with KCP being here.
Yeah.
But I do think that overall, again, a lot of this is contingent on Christian Brown and Julian Strawther's development, 1,000%. But let's say Christian Brown steps into the role and becomes like a commendable, like a legit starting shooting guard in the league, I think the team all around from 1 to 10 is just better. Now, the top end talent, like what that will look like without KCP, that's going to be the other story. But I think 1 through 10, I think the team could be better.
Right. And I don't disagree with that. I think that just the unfamiliarity that the starting lineup's going to have with Christian in there, like they've built up a bunch of chemistry with KCP, understanding what he's going to do, how he's going to play. The fit was seamless for the most part. With Christian, it's going to be a little bit difficult. I also think that there is a world where Christian is not the starter, or they play around with that starting lineup a little bit more frequently than maybe they would. I don't think that that's the expectation, but I don't know. There's a possibility that Russell Westbrook could start. There's a possibility that Julian Strawther could start. You brought up before, maybe Peyton Watson is ultimately the guy that you want to get in there if you believe in his talent. And I think that there's a couple of ways that Denver can go. But I do think that the most likely way is, of course, the one that you laid out, where Christian Brown is the starter, where Russell Westbrook comes in off the bench. And then if he plays well, then maybe he's the guy that closes. Maybe he's the guy that gives you that little extra oomph. And it's something that we saw from Denver in their lineups and in the Minnesota series, where they didn't have a secondary ball handler in that lineup that could actually take away some of the pressure from Jamal Murray. I wonder how this affects that. I wonder what the ball handling kind of breakdown is going to be, because there are some interesting things that I think that they can do.
Well, Russell Westbrook's one of the best ball handler passers in the league. So that's that for me again. And again, he can also be the primary POA defender next to Jamal. So again, I've talked about this, Ryan, for umpteen times, and everybody's probably tired of hearing me saying it. Jamal Murray needs to not have the main defensive assignment with the bench on the perimeter. He cannot do it. But that's not because he can't do it and lock in. It's because he has things he needs to do on the other end.
Yeah.
Russ can take so much pressure off him dribbling the ball, but also Nikola Jokic. Like, legitimately now, the Nuggets are going to have Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and Jokic as the ball handlers in the starting unit. And then off the bench, Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther, more than likely. And I would say Peyton a little bit, but probably more Strawther in that situation. But again, if the Nuggets have 5.5 ball handlers now, like now I feel way better about the situation, because I was not feeling Jalen Pickett at all. I don't think he could have been that for this team, because then that's very limiting. But I mean, honestly, bro, right now, is Russell Westbrook the second best passer on the team? I mean, or has Jamal Murray, because of his floor spacing and all that stuff, like in his ability to shoot, had he cleared Russ at this point in his career?
That's a good question. I think that Russ has more experience kind of distributing the ball like that, and has dealt with some of the negative spacing at times, and just has known how to navigate that a little bit better. I think he's a better passer than Murray. I do think that Murray's able to take a little bit more attention as a scorer, and that kind of opens up some different passes. But like, Russ can do some things. One thing that I think we should probably hit on, there is a volatility aspect here, though. Like, there is something where I don't know how Russ is going to fit within the ecosystem of the Nuggets. I think that it's possible that it's great. I think it's possible that it makes sense. But you see that, like, hey, what if Christian Brown is the one that ultimately starts? What if there are games where Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson are playing more than 17th year in the NBA Russell Westbrook, who's been a former MVP? I think that this is going to be it's going to be a fascinating dynamic, because with the Clippers, and to a lesser extent with the Lakers, like, he still had an opportunity to kind of get all of his minutes and fit around what the pecking order was, with especially with the Clippers, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and you could justify it over those guys. But the moment that the Nuggets start playing Christian Brown over Russell Westbrook consistently, it could be tough. And like, I just think it's something to monitor.
The thing is, though, I think that was 3 years ago, but that Russ has not, and I want to be fair to Russ there. Maybe 3 years ago, it was a real issue with the Lakers when he was starting. But Russ has not shown any of that in the last 2 years. Honestly, like, he hasn't complained about it. Like, he's accepted the 6-man role. He's accepted when he needed to start in the playoffs in 2023 when they had all those injuries. Like, Russ doesn't, I mean, everywhere he's been, his teammates speak glowingly of him because he buys in, he's unselfish, and he supports everybody. Here's the thing, though. Like, I just think there are going to be a lot of adds to it. And again, if Russ knows who he is in his career, like, he's not able to do what Christian Brown can do consistently. So that's fine. And I think he's going to accept that. But I also just think, like, there's just so many things he's going to be able to add, and just taking away pressure from Jamal, being able to dribble the ball, being able to create. And I think a lot of people, when they talk about Russ, like, oh, energy, play hard. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But he's also like a basketball genius. And again, I don't mean a basketball genius as in he's like LeBron and Jokic and all that, but he just has so much playing experience that it's just going to be so valuable for Julian Strawther. Hey, when you're running down the court, this is where I need you to be. Hey, when you're doing this, and on top of that too, the Nuggets play such an egalitarian style of basketball. Russ, if you're with Jokic, you're going to get the ball, and you're going to get the ball in the best position possible, more than likely. And one of the great things is too, bro, Russ is a good baseline runner. And so having that level of athlete running the baseline next to Nikola Jokic or Aaron Gordon or Jamal, I think that's just really going to help them overall. So again, I don't know if it's going to be like, the championship ad, but I do know this, that if you're saying that Jamal Murray can depend on Russell Westbrook to take some pressure off him versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, versus the Dallas Mavericks, versus the Boston Celtics, I think Russ is about just as good as a six man as you can ask for in the league.
We will find out, man. It's going to be very interesting. I'm very curious to see how it breaks down. And ultimately, like, it's a minimum contract. Like, this is a minimum contract signing. You can't expect over the moon numbers and production and impact and things like that. But that's not what the Nuggets need. They need somebody who can fit in, do the role. And I think that there is a great chance that Russell Westbrook can do that. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
But everybody, let us know what you think down in the comments below. Russell Westbrook, a long villain of the Denver Nuggets organization, now a member of the team. Going to be fascinating to see what it looks like in a Nuggets uniform. Let us know what you think in the comments. He's Swipa. I'm Ryan. We're out.